My Tesla has degraded 13% since I bought it over 2 years ago, and I'm at 83,000 miles. What's happened? I'm gonna explain some things I did along the lifespan of this car, what I did to actually make it better despite the degradation, how this stacks up with the average, and also how that 13% might be less than what it actually says. So first of all, if you have a Tesla and you don't have this app called Tessie, I highly recommend that you download this app. I've had it for the last 2 years and it has all the data, all the analytics that you can expect to see from the car, from driving, charge time. This app says it all, and that's how I'm getting my number here, 13% after 83,000 miles. This is actually somewhat close to what the average is for my 2022 Tesla Model Y performance, but it is doing slightly worse, and we're gonna talk about some of those things. Number one, EPA mileage prediction has changed for the Tesla Model Y. And as of today, December of 2024, if you look at getting a Tesla Model Y performance, you're looking at a total of 277 miles of range in total. When I got this car, it was estimated for 303. It's possible with updates that that prediction of my total mileage, which now sits at about 260 miles per full charge, that might have updated with current projections of EPA estimations. And if we take that number, 277, and we take that by what the car says that it can get, which is 260, with my degradation on it, that's actually only about 7%. And there's the Tessie prediction, which is 13% degradation. Now that Tessie estimation might be from when the car was projected to have 303 miles of range back in 2022, and it's just not recognizing that it gets 277. But what I can tell you ultimately is that I have felt this loss of battery range in my car. Here are some things that I did to my car to get more range and what you can do. I actually have a lot of videos about this. My Model Y performance came with 21-inch Uber turbine wheels. They're big, they're heavy, and it requires more energy to do that. When you get a 21-inch rim and you reduce it to a 20, a 19, or even an 18-inch rim. And that's what I have on my Tesla, and it's enabled me to get overland tires on it, really thicker tires to get more comfort out of the car and also more range because the whole entire wheel and tire setup is significantly lighter than the stock. And so overall, changing those wheels and tires did help considerably with my range. But let's go back to what I was saying of how I actually lost a little more than even what Tessie's predicting to be an average number in terms of range loss from the battery degradation. If you actually look here at the chart, this is my data, and this is actually the battery's prediction of degradation based on every 5 kilowatts that are used from the Tesla battery. And you can see this really big dip that happens here. And what that actually was the trip that I took from Western California all the way to Boise, Idaho, to pick up a 3,500 pound trailer, maxing out the specs of the Tesla. It was able to bring it home. I had to stop like I think over 10 times, not including the trip to get there, but towing back that 1,000 miles with the trailer. I used a lot of supercharging and I did a lot of deep cycle draining from close to 100% down to sub 10%. The frequent supercharging and the strain on the battery, including the performance required to actually pull something that heavy, I think that brought the average down quite a bit. And I want to point out that I think there's some flaws with the data here because you can see where it dips and then it comes back up as it kind of estimates the battery a little bit better. And so I think those times where I did exert the car with a lot of energy and power, that it dipped a little bit lower than it thought it would. There's probably more metrics involved, perhaps like the car getting significantly less range when it's towing. It might have skewed the battery data in terms of degradation. I'm not sure what's really going on here, but as I'm making this video, I haven't towed with a Tesla in several thousand miles, and so this data should be relatively consistent with what the battery's current state actually is, of which Tessie is saying it's at 13%. And even if we were to take a close kind of estimation here, the battery could very well be at a 10% degradation. And by the way, I'm not actually expecting this to get much worse. I think this is going to be relatively consistent. I was worried because, as you know, warranty for the Tesla's battery is 8 years or up to 120,000 miles. I'm definitely gonna reach the mileage before I reach the years of the battery owned, but it's not looking like I'm gonna reach anywhere near 30% battery degradation anytime soon, and I'm already at 83,000 miles. I think this trend is starting to flatline, and I can see that about 10%, maybe no more than 15% by the time the car is at 120,000 miles. But fingers crossing, I don't really know with this sort of setup, but there's a couple things that you can do to make sure that your battery is healthy. Tesla says to try to keep it between 20 and 80%. I know that's sometimes hard and unrealistic at some times, but typically you want to avoid having the battery at a higher state of charge. So in general, keeping it below 90% and not to reach the extreme depths of discharge like sub 10% or sub 5% especially. Now, another theory I have as to why my car could have degraded so drastically, because it's a performance model Tesla, and how often I accelerate, that demand of power from the battery has an impact on its battery lifespan. Having a Model Y long range and not having the ability to draw so much power from the battery probably has some effect with how long it's preserved in the long run. So one could say that a Model Y Performance has the worst battery range out of all of them, not because the battery is different, but because if somebody frequently uses the full power capacity of the vehicle motors, that's going to draw a lot of power and a lot of wear and tear on that battery. And so that in turn can have an effect to making the Model Y Performance being a more accident prone to battery degradation than a Model Y long range. That's just a theory. That makes sense to me that intense power consumption from the battery would impact the battery degradation in the long term. If you think about it, right, it's kind of like having a gas car and not wanting to throttle it all the time because you're gonna cause wear and tear on the engine and all the other parts associated. So it's not really that big of a deal to be like, hey, if you have a Tesla, you know, try to be a little bit more cognizant on when and when not you choose to accelerate full power. I know it's super easy to do, but that all does lead to wear and tear, and as to why I could be having the numbers that I have now. Okay, so biggest takeaway of this video, because it doesn't impact how you drive and it doesn't impact how you use superchargers, please change your wheels on your Tesla to get something smaller. I still think it looks really good to have 18-inch wheels, and that will allow you to get even a thicker tire. You know, I'm not saying that you should get a smaller tire. You can still get the biggest tire you can fit on the Tesla, and you can increase the comfort because there's a little bit more rubber on the road and cushion the sound a little bit. And that's what I did, and that gives you a range increase. And so if you are not happy with your range losses, maybe the first year or two of owning a Tesla, you kind of want to see it back, that is one thing you can do immediately.